Welcome back now with a look at our 5-day weather forecast. Here's Natalia Buya.
Thanks, Phil. If you're heading out to Nuit Blanche this weekend, I suggest you bundle up because we're in for a cold, windy weekend. The remainder of today is going to be very cloudy with a temperature of 16 degrees and a low of 6. Saturday, we may see some rain, so don't store away those umbrellas just yet. We'll have a high of 12 and a low of 3. Sunday looks even cooler with a high of 11 and a low of 3. But at last, the sun comes out Monday and temperatures rise to 14 with a low of 6. Tuesday, we'll see a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 15 and a low of 8 degrees. So it's safe to say that shorts and sandals just don't cut it anymore. And with these temperatures, boots and gloves will slowly creep their way back into our closets. That's it for me. Now back to you to the studio.
Canada has a new head of state today. David Johnston was sworn in as Canada's 28th Governor General during a ceremony at Parliament Hill. Johnston left his post as the President and Chancellor of the University of Waterloo when he was appointed. Johnston, who was made a Companion of the Order of Canada in 1998, replaces Michael Jean, who has spent the last 5 years at Rideau Hall.
The Supreme Court of Newfoundland and Labrador has found an American woman not guilty in the death of her husband. Mary Beth Harshbarger has been on trial for criminal negligence causing death after her husband was shot on a hunting trip in Newfoundland in 2006. The court heard that it was dark at the time of the shooting and Harshbarger's husband was not wearing his hunter's orange. Harshbarger has maintained she thought she was shooting a black bear when she killed her husband. The judge in the case says the shooting was nothing more than an accident.
Maclean's magazine isn't saying sorry for a controversial study published last week, but the company that owns the magazine is. In a statement released yesterday, Rogers Publishing apologized for any offense caused by a story calling Quebec the most corrupt province in Canada. The apology follows a motion passed unanimously in the House of Commons rebuking the magazine for unfairly criticizing Quebec's history and its institutions. The motion's passing marks only the second time in 100 years that Parliament has formally censured the work of a news publication.
Militants in southern Pakistan have set fire to a NATO fuel tankers in 2 separate attacks today. The first happened just before dawn, but no one was injured. The second attack occurred later in the morning. A driver and his assistant were killed in that incident. The convoys were carrying supplies to NATO troops in Afghanistan. It comes just days after officials in Pakistan closed the northwestern border of Torkham in protest after 3 Pakistani soldiers were killed in a NATO airstrike.
And now with your sports news, here's Kyle Hall.
I'm Kyle Hall, and this is your sports news. The Humber men's rugby team won its home opener last night. Trailing most of the game, Humber rhymed off 2 late tries in the last 20 minutes to take the lead for good. Fullback Jordan Reed led the team with 2 tries, while Preston Boyce added another. The win gives Humber a 2-1 record and puts them in the top spot in the West Division. The Hawks take on the Seneca Sting next Wednesday in North York. It's a big weekend for the Humber men's baseball team. The Hawks play 4 games in 2 days and are currently battling for a playoff spot. The Hawks play a doubleheader against York on Saturday and then turn around and have another doubleheader against St. Clair the following day. Hawks manager Denny Bernardy talks about what this team needs to do in order to make the playoffs.
For this weekend, I think if we just split both games against York and St. Clair, we're in the playoffs. I think if we come ahead of St. Clair, then we get home field advantage. So that's the key. This weekend, we want to be able to come away with at least 2 wins, guarantee a playoff spot.
Humber currently sits in 2nd place in the Ontario Division. In golf news, Gordon Hashey led the Hawks golf team to a nail-biting victory over the Durham Lords at yesterday's Niagara Invitational. Hashey shot a 3-under 69, including 4 birdies to help edge Durham by a single shot 294 to 295. The Hawks season continues with the OCAA Championship starting on Sunday, where they look to win their 5th straight title. The Blue Jays made a little history last night. The Jays knocked in another 6 home runs, giving them 253 on the season, the 5th highest total in league history, as they beat up on the Twins 13-2. Jose Bautista led the charge with 2 homers, including a grand slam in the 7th, giving him 54 homers on the season. The Jays continue their series in Minnesota tonight with the first pitch at 8:10. NHL preseason action tonight. Toronto visits Detroit, and Nazem Kadri is expected to dress for the Leafs. Goaltender UC Reinus will start tonight, replacing an injured Jonas Gustafsson, who's been suffering from a mild groin injury. Other preseason games tonight include the Ottawa Senators taking on the New York Rangers, the Calgary Flames in Edmonton for the Battle of Alberta, and the Canucks taking on the Ducks in Anaheim. That's all for sports. Back to the newsroom.
Thanks, Kyle. After the break, Crystal Burney will have all the latest in entertainment.
Launch hits the streets, the Sony Center reopens its doors, and David Suzuki is in the city. All that and more after the break.